So welcome to this orientation session of the Advanced Audit and Assurance, the international variant of the paper. My name is Luqman Rafiq and I'm going to take you people through this specific paper preparation. So before we start discussing about this AAA paper, let me discuss that this is the syllabus guide that I am using, which is from September 2020 to June 2021. There is another syllabus guide which is available, and I'm not referring to that syllabus guide right now. One thing before I start discussing anything about this as this AAA paper, one thing that I would like to tell you people, and one thing that I would like to clarify is that you see, whenever we talk about the concept of auditing, so what exactly are we trying to do whenever we are talking about audit? So whenever we are talking about the audit, so we are actually trying to express an opinion on the financial statement. Express an opinion on financial statement. That is something that we are trying to do. So if you are trying to express an opinion on the financial statements, that means you should know that how the financial statements are prepared. You should know how the financial statements are prepared, and you should know whether these financial statements have been correctly prepared or not. So I repeat, what happens is we need to know that how the financial statements are prepared. The second thing is that are these financial statements correctly prepared or not? And for you to be able to know all of these things, it's important that you should know the accounting framework. For you to be able to know all these things, it's important that you should know the accounting framework. So when we are going to be talking about the auditing, let's try to have an understanding of something, which is that the audit starts, I repeat, audit starts where the accounting ends. I repeat, the audit starts where the accounting ends. So that means in order to be a good auditor, I repeat, in order to be a good auditor, you have to be a good accountant. Let me repeat, in order to be a good auditor, you have to be a good accountant. So basically what happens is, in case if you are not a good accountant, you cannot be a good auditor. The reason being, you would not know what is going on. You would not know what is going on with the financial statement. What are the things that I have to cover up? So whenever I teach the paper of AAA, I tell the students in advance that there is something that you have to keep in mind, that in case if you have not studied SBR, it's okay if you have not attempted it. It's okay if you have not passed it. But in case if you haven't, um, but in case if you haven't studied SBR, then it is going to become very difficult for you. It is going to become very difficult for you to be able to attempt the AAA paper. So for all those who are trying to go for AAA, and if you have not studied the SBR yet, then I would recommend that you don't go for AAA, because for you to be able to pass this AAA paper, it's important that you should know the SBR. It's important that you should know the accounting standards, because without accounting standards, you cannot pass this specific AAA paper. That is something that you would have to keep in mind. Now, let's move a bit forward. A lot of you people would actually be asking that we don't remember the SBR at all. We have forgotten SBR. So now you see what happens is, it is okay. I do understand. The moment you leave the exam hall, majority of you forget whatever you have studied. I do understand this thing. I have been a student in the past also, and I know this thing, that whenever we leave the exam hall, we have almost forgotten 50% of the content at the time of leaving the exam hall. So that is okay. That is not an issue. Um, okay, Fatma, just wait a bit. Now, that is okay. That is not an issue. So first thing is that if you have not studied, so that's a different case. If you are planning to study alongside AAA, that is okay, because what happens is, then you would be actually be preparing for both the SBR and the AAA together. But if you are planning to attempt SBR, this AAA, right, this, that you will attempt AAA in this session and you will go for the SBR in the next session, then I think that's not a recommended approach. It's okay if you haven't attempted, but you will be attempting both of them together. That is perfectly fine. Okay, Now, for those students who have studied the FR paper and the SBR paper and they have forgotten all the accounting standards, so for you people also, you don't have to worry, because what I'll be doing is I'll be giving you the detailed. I'll be giving you the detailed lectures on these accounting standards, which are going to be helpful for you to be able to do this specific thing. Okay, Kunal, yes, if you have studied FR, that is going to be sufficient enough. That is going to take you through this examination. Okay, there is another question which is Sibanda is asking, and I'm going to answer your question through this thing, Sibanda, that a lot of students who have attempted AA, um, a lot of students, they struggle to pass AA, the audit and assurance paper, in the first attempt. So that is okay, because when it comes to AAA, the AAA, hardly 20% of the AA is applicable in AAA, and the rest of the 80% is going to be the other knowledge or the accounting standard knowledge, which I would say the SBR knowledge, that is going to be examined. So you don't have to worry about it. It's only going to be 20% of the F8 that is going to be examined in this paper. The rest is not going to be examined. So you don't have to worry about it. Okay, now let's move a bit forward and let's discuss further. So we have discussed about the basic concept of this AAA, that you do understand that the audit starts where the accounting ends. So if you are not good at accounting, you are going to struggle with auditing. If you're not good at accounting, you're going to struggle with auditing. So one of the key things that you should know in order to be able to pass this AAA paper is that you have to understand that how the accounting operates. No, Kunal Bachani, it's not going to be difficult at all to attempt the CBE paper. Why? Because I think that calculation paper, if you are attempting at CBE, that's a much easier paper to attempt, because in SBR also, if you attempt the SBR paper, it's hardly 20-25% calculation. The rest of the 75% paper is a discursive paper. Okay, let's move a bit forward. So we have discussed this basic concept of how this AAA has a connection with the accounting, and why you should not attempt AAA if you have not studied accounting, or if you don't plan to study accounting together with the AAA paper. That is something that I have actually told you. Now, let's just start discussing about this AAA. I'm going to start off with the syllabus relational diagram, because generally speaking, I do start off with a relational diagram. And you could see that with respect to this relational diagram of the AAA, you can see that there is a strong connection of AAA with the SBR and with the AA. So if you have to attempt AAA, you should know this, you should know this. But I'm telling you, this is 20%, this is 40%, and the rest 40% is the new stuff that actually makes up AAA. So if you look at the relationship between this AAA and the audit and assurance and the SBR, this is how the relation is. How exactly is the paper examined? So what happens is there is a section A where there is only one question which is worth 50 marks. Then you've got section B, which has got two questions, and each of them is worth 25 marks each. So resultingly, that makes it a 50-mark paper. That is something that happens with the section A and section B of the paper. What are the key areas of the paper? So we're going to talk about them, that what are the key areas of the paper. So let me actually take you through to the issues, to the different parts of the syllabus that are actually examined. So if I talk about these different parts of the syllabus that are examined, let's talk and let's have a discussion on them. The first thing is, you need to understand that amongst the different things which are examinable at this AAA level, so these three areas, which is section A, section B, and section C, they constitute approximately 25% of the paper. This specific area constitutes around 20% of the paper. This is going to be around 5 to 10% of the paper, going to be around 5 to 10% of the paper. And the rest of the whole portion is this specific area, which is going to be what? This is going to be approximately 50% of the syllabus. So that means 50% of the syllabus is dependent upon this. The 25% portion is these three sections, and 20% is this specific section, and 5 to 10% is this specific current issues and development. This is how the syllabus is all about. Now, let's discuss a bit further and let's talk about this regulatory environment, professional ethical consideration, practice management, that what exactly are there in these specific areas of the syllabus. So if I talk about these specific areas of the syllabus, the first and the foremost thing is whenever we talk about the regulatory environment. So with respect to the regulatory environment, you need to understand this thing, that what exactly do you mean by the regulatory environment? So as a company, as an entity, I repeat, as a company, as an entity, um, you are required to have your financial statements audited. And what is it that actually requires your company to get its financial statement audited? It's actually the relevant Companies Act. I repeat, it's actually the relevant Companies Act that is prevalent in your country that requires you to get your financial statements audited. So when you have got the Companies Act in your entity, I repeat, whenever you've got Companies Act prevalent in your country, this Companies Act actually require your entity's financial statements to be audited. So in the first section, which is about regulatory environment, what are we going to be discussing? We're going to be discussing the different laws and regulation. We're going to be talking about the different laws and regulation that actually constitute, that actually make up this specific audit, how the money laundering operates, how the different laws and regulation in your country operates, what is the framework that the auditor has to follow while conducting the audit. So all of this we are going to be talking about under this specific regulatory environment area. Now let's move a bit forward and let's discuss further. If I talk about a bit further, so the next thing with respect to it is that there's this professional and ethical consideration. There's this professional and ethical consideration. You do have an idea that the code of ethics, the application of code of ethics is an important area. I repeat, the application of the code of ethics is an important area that requires what? The code of ethics actually is applicable to all the accountants. The code of ethics is actually applicable to all the accountants. So when you talk about the ethical issues, so what you need to do is that you need to actually see that you need to study the code of ethics. You need to understand the professional matters also with respect to the code of ethics, and you need to apply them to the different scenarios that are being provided to you in the examination. I repeat, you need to apply them to the different scenarios that are being provided to you in the examination. That is something that you have to do. So whenever we talk about the concept of code of ethics, the code of ethics is something that is actually going to be a very important area, and from the exam perspective it's a 15-mark area that is examined. The third area is about the quality control and practice management. Let me tell you what is quality control, what is practice management. If I talk about the quality control, the quality control is one of those areas that we study from the perspective of the firm-wide quality, and the other one of them is from the engagement-wise quality. That how do we make sure, how do we ensure that the quality improves? How do we make sure that the quality improves? That is something that we have to do. I repeat, when we talk about the quality control, so quality control is one of those areas that actually tells us how, I repeat, quality control is one of those areas that actually tells us that how an entity, how a firm, how an audit firm manages its overall quality, and how the audit firm ensures that the engagement wise quality is being properly maintained, is being properly considered. So that is also something that is done. Now, there is another thing which is called the practice management. What do you mean by the practice management? Let me tell you, let me guide you about the practice management. The audit firm, the audit firm is actually a practice. Let me repeat. The audit firm is actually a practice. When you are operating an audit firm, you are operating a practicing firm. And when you are operating a practicing firm, so having a practicing firm operate would mean that this practicing firm has got a lot of things to do. It has to make sure that it continues its business. It has to make sure that its business operations are sustainable. It has to make sure that its quality is maintained. It has to make sure that its relationship goes on. It has to make sure that it keeps on introducing new types of services, etc., etc. So when we talk about this practice management area is actually going to tell us that how an audit firm has to manage its specific practice, how an audit firm has to ensure that its practice is being managed properly. So, as I told you, that from the perspective of the exam, this specific area, which is section A, section B, and section C of the syllabus, this constitute approximately 25% of the paper. This constitutes approximately 25% of the paper. That is what I told you. And what is it all covering? It's covering what are the laws and regulations that are applicable, what are the ethical and what are the other codes that you have to follow, and how do you need to make sure that you manage your quality, and how do you need to make sure that you manage your practice. That is something that you would have to do under these three sections. Okay, now let's move a bit forward and let's discuss further. The next aspect of this specific syllabus is section number what, section number D, and section number E. If I talk about section D and section E of the syllabus, so what exactly is covered under section D and section E of the syllabus? Let's try to have an understanding of this. Section D is planning and conducting audit of historical finance information, and section E is about completion and reporting. Now, let me guide you what is going to be covered up in this section D and in this section E. So all of the ISAs, whether that be either 200 series, whether that be either 300 series, 400, 500, 600, 700. All of these ISA series is going to be applicable. I repeat, all of these ISA series is going to be applicable. What are these ISAs that are going to be applicable? Let me show you. Yeah, Fatma Risana, just wait about it. I'm just going to open it up. Don't worry. Okay, now when we talk about this whole ISA, so that means from this specific AAA paper perspective, every single ISA is examinable. Now, a lot of students would be asking a question that would we be going through every single ISA? We would not be directly going through every single ISA document, but yes, we would be reviewing every single ISA, that what does this ISA says, how does this ISA applies, etc., 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 and what is the requirement of the ISA in the given circumstances. We're going to go through them. Don't worry about them. So, but again, it's not in depth. It's actually you need to know the summary of every specific ISA, the key points of every single ISA that you would have to cover up. So either 200, the entire series, either 300, either 400, the either 500 series, either 600, and then the either 700 with respect to the audit reporting and all that. So either 800 is not examinable at your level. It's only the either 700 series that's examinable. So we are going to cover them all through this specific course. We are going to be covering them through the course, so you don't have to worry about it. And when we'll be going through these ISAs, a very important area that we would be also covering, that is going to be the accounting standards. So the knowledge of the ISAs and the accounting standards, this constitutes approximately 50% of the paper. I repeat, this constitutes approximately 50% of the paper. Okay. So all of these ISAs and the accounting standard, they're going to constitute approximately 50% of the syllabus. So you could see the major areas. It's about planning, risk assessment, the evidence and testing, audit procedure using the work of other group audits, then completion, review and reporting, including subsequent events, auditor's report, etc., etc., etc. So every single thing is going to be covered up. Now let's move a bit forward and let's talk a bit further. So we have got other assignments also. Now what exactly do you mean by this other assignments? This is something that is an altogether, this is something that's an altogether new thing for you people, which is what exactly is this other assignments. So we do know what are ISA, we do know what are ISA, but we don't know. I mean, we do know what is ISA, but we haven't actually covered up ISRE. We haven't covered up ISAE. We haven't actually gone through ISRS at our earlier studies. So at this level, what we will be doing is we'll be covering up all of these things. So the international standards on auditing, is going to be one of those areas, which is the ISA area. We know we know that this is going to be covered. But then there is this international standards on review engagements. Then what happens is there is this international standards on assurance engagements. And then there is this international standards on related services. So what actually happens is these specific areas, I repeat, these specific areas are also considered as other engagements. They're also considered as other engagements of the other assignments. So other engagements and the other assignments is going to be approximately 20% of the syllabus, and we are going to be covering it up through through the discussion and through the past papers and all. So that is also going to be there, which is about the other assignments. That what are the other assignments? What are the things that you have to cover up with respect to other assignments? And lastly, there is this current issues and development, that what are the current changes that are taking place in the ISA, what are the current changes that are taking place in the ISQC and the other pronouncements, etc., etc., and how the auditing profession is going to change. So all of these things are going to be covered up in this current issue. So from the exam perspective, if you need to understand, so I am going to tell you that if you want to pass, the formula is very simple. This is the core area. The formula is very simple. This is the core area. And this core area would need sound knowledge of ISA. This core area would need sound knowledge of the accounting standards. Okay, so what we have done right now is that we have actually gone through the discussion of the syllabus of this paper. Imran, if you would have been mentioning all panelists and attendees, everyone would have been able to read your messages. Anyways, so we have actually talked about that what is this syllabus of auditing all about, and I've actually talked about this thing that you have to make sure that this is the core area of the syllabus. That is something that you need to cover up. Now, I'm going to open up one of the past examination questions to help you people go through that uh, how this paper is actually examined, so that you can have an idea that what is it that is covered up in the paper and etc. Now see, this is a AAA paper, September December 23 3-hour, 15-minute paper with a one question in section A and two questions in section B. If you could just look at this section A, so it's actually going to be a very long case study, going to be a very long case study. And what is it that is covered up in this case study? Let me actually take you people through. So it says respond. I mean, like the whole question is there, but I'm just focusing upon the important areas, which is it says respond to the instructions in the email from the audit engagement partner. Now, what are the instructions that you have to engage in? So now let's just see. It says using the information in all exhibits, evaluate the audit risk to be considered in planning the group audit. So that means one of the area is about the audit risk. And this audit risk is actually about section B of the syllabus. Sorry, section D of the syllabus. So you've got the section D of the syllabus, which is of 26 marks. That is something that is there. Then it says principal audit procedures to be performed on segmental information. So there's this segmental information in accordance with the requirements of IFRS 8 that you might actually have to go through. So it's again section D, which is of 5 mark. Then if you move a bit forward and try to see requirement C and D, it says evaluate matters to be considered in deciding whether Pegasus should accept the engagement to provide advice on group social and environmental performance. If you could just see, it's not about the financial statement, it's about the social and environmental information. So this is actually other assignments, which is section number F, going to be 10 marks. Then it says respond to my request regarding use of audit data analytics to enhance audit efficiency, effectiveness, and quality in the group audit. So it's actually about the audit analytics, and audit analytics is basically the current issue. So this is approximately 5 marks. So if you could just look at this constitution of question number 1 of section A, you could see that question number 1, section A, has got 26 marks about audit risk. You've got 5 marks, which is about the audit procedures. You've got 10 marks, which is about the other assignments. And you've got 5 marks, which is from the current issues, the section G. Now, let's move a bit forward and discuss further. The next aspect of this is that, okay, now see, it says comment on the quality of the planning and performance of the audit of reverse company. Comment on the quality of the planning and performance of the audit of reverse company. So you see, it's a question on quality, discussing quality control, ethical and other professional issues, and recommending appropriate actions. So you've got a 15-mark question, which is about section A, B, and C. You've got a 15-mark question here. Instead of writing section D, I would write section D and E, because I told you people that to be a combination. So you see, you've got a question from section A, B, and C, which is of 15 mark. What? It's about a quality control area. Now what next is there? Let's move a bit forward. Let's talk about this section B. It says evaluate matters which should be considered before Welford and Company accepts the audit of Broadway Group. So it's actually accepting of the engagement of the audit and etc. etc. So this is something that is partly ISA. This is something which is partly section A, B, and C. But I would rather say it's about section D and E of approximately 10 marks. Yes, Michael Akoto, you can go ahead with your question. If you have a question, you may ask, please. Okay, let's move a bit forward and discuss further. You've got now question number 3. And if I talk about question number 3, you could see already reference to some of the accounting standards is there. But it says comment on the completion of the matters to be considered in relation to the issues described in the auditor's report that can be signed, further auditor's report, etc. etc. Again, it's section D and section E, which is of 15 mark. Then you look at this. This is about section number, I mean, like this is part B. which is about other information, and this is about the chairman's statement, etc. Again, this is section D and E. I repeat, this is section D and E, again 10 marks more. So if you could see this whole, the section D and E, which is about the audit of historical financial, we've got 26 plus 5 plus 10 plus 15 plus 10. So you could see how many marks are there from this specific section. Approximately 66 marks. You've got section A, B, C, approximately 15 marks. You've got section F, 10 marks, section G, 5 marks. This is what the constitution of this paper is in this specific exam attempt. You've got section D and E, 66 marks, the core areas of the syllabus. What is this section D and E? This is what it is. This is what it is. This is what the core area of the syllabus, where you would have to cover up the ISA and the IFRS. I repeat, this is the core area of the syllabus, where you would have to cover up the ISA and the IFRS. Is that okay now? Okay. So what have we done now? We've actually gone through the overall understanding of the syllabus, and we've also seen that how this is actually how this is actually splitted between what is splitted between the different parts of the syllabus. So I think what we are going to do is that we are going to keep it till here for today. Okay, yes, one thing is left, which is that how exactly are we going to be covering the syllabus? So that is something that I would have to talk about. So let me open up one of the websites, which is about the Scriber's website, which is available, on which this course is going to be available. We've got a website, the name of which is scriberacademy.com. On this scriberacademy.com, we have got this ACCA professional level course of AAA in English. Yeah, this is what we have. So when you look at this AAA in English, it's the whole course that is available: the introduction, the audit overview, the business and audit risk, multiple questions that I have gone through in the past, the audit procedures, accounting standards which are going to be relevant for you people, the audit reporting, audit evidence exam questions, the regulatory, environment, ethical, practical management issues, other assignments, the revision sessions, and the current issues, etc., etc. So what are we going to be doing is, you all would be provided access to, whoever gets enrolled, you'll be provided access to these recorded lectures. What I'll be doing is that I will be going through, I would start off these 3 sections. I'll probably be going through live in my classes. These for 4 sections, 1, 2, 3, 4. These sections I'll be going through live in my classes that I'll be conducting. The accounting standards and the audit procedures will be provided to you in the recorded format. The rest of the areas we'll be going through we'll be going through a quick revision, and we'll be attempting the examination questions in the classes. That is something that we'll be doing. So starting from now, which is the mid of March, till the end of April, we will have approximately 8 to 10 sessions of this AAA. And in the month of May, we will have approximately 15 sessions of this AAA. So this is what the live sessions are going to be. In these 8 to 10 sessions, I'll be going through the topics and questions. And these 15 sessions are going to be majorly the exam practice session that we will be doing. And we will be going through the whole of the syllabus. That is something that we will be going through in these 15 sessions. So this is what we have planned off for the AAA. And this is how we are going to progress through the AAA preparations. So in case if anyone has got any questions, you may ask. For those of the students who are going to be preparing for September and who wish to register from now, you can register whatever the changes are going to be there. They would be updated in your relevant portals. That is, they will be updated in the recorded lectures that you would be provided access to. So they would be updated in them. So you don't have to worry about them because we will update them. So that's it from my side. Now, in case if any one of you have got any questions, just do let me know so that I can answer you, or else we are going to conclude it till here for today. And we're going to continue in our next session about this.